Barbenheimer,
Heimer.
the
Yes.
movie situation of the summer. The first time in a long time, in my opinion, that felt like people are excited to
Yes.
go to the movies. Barbie, the film, and Oppenheimer, totally different films.
Oh, 1,000%.
Becoming
Okay.
an internet. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I got so excited. I'm like knocking my mic and everything. I remember when we've known about Barbie forever. It
Right.
seems like, their marketing campaign was amazing.
Yes.
I remember I was talking to my mom about how Barbenheimer was a thing, and she was like, I haven't even heard of this second movie. Like, what is this? And
Right.
I was like, I haven't actually seen any kind of like promotion for the, Oppenheimer. And
Right.
so it seems like they're kind of, I'm just like, it kind of seems like they're just getting a lot of free marketing because they came out on the same day. And I was like, you know what? Good for whatever, production is
Yes.
like doing that, because they don't have to do any of the work right now.
Yes. Whether it truly was a grassroots thing or maybe it was some
Yeah.
really like meticulous behind the scenes thing, either way it was brilliant and it
Oh,
worked.
1,000%.
And both films benefited and had awareness raised. Because they were stronger being joined in this internet meme than they would have been on their own. And so I've loved every second of it. I know some people got tired of seeing it after a while, but it's been so long. When was the last time people got this excited about the
Yeah.
movies? And it wasn't some Marvel, Star Wars, which I like some of those movies, not a lot of them. I like some of those movies, but it's like, come on now, let people have their fun. This is
Yes.
exciting. And so Meg has seen Barbie. I'm actually going to see it after we're done recording this session. So I have yet to see Barbie. I've seen Oppenheimer twice. Meg has not seen Oppenheimer. So what we're
Yeah.
going to do, Meg is going to give her thoughts on Barbie, the Barb part of Barbenheimer, and then I'll be the Enheimer part half, the Oppenheimer half, and I'll give you my thoughts on that film. And then eventually both of us will see the other one, and then maybe we can circle back or something. But just for the folks out there who have yet to see these films, we neither of us have seen both, and so we're cognizant of that for each other and for you. We're going to give you our thoughts on these films without spoiling anything, and that's the goal at least. And we promise if we accidentally spoil anything, I'll edit it out so that you
Right.
for sure don't.
Yeah.
But I don't think we will. So Meg, I think it makes sense. It's Barbenheimer. It makes
Yeah.
sense to start with the Barbie half. You saw it. What did you think?
Yeah. So honestly, I loved it. I don't know if DVDs are like still a thing. I think they are. I would probably buy
Yeah.
the DVD. I'd watch it again. I think it was fantastic. I loved it. It kind of gave me the same vibe as like Legally Blonde.
Okay.
Just like that very like girl empowerment, a girl's girl kind of
Right.
lead character. And so I thought it was great. I did not see it on opening day. I probably saw it like, a couple days afterwards. And what I thought was so interesting is just like the right wingers that were reacting to it and how upset they were getting.
Right.
And it's just because of the gender roles. They were reversed. Women were, are more empowered in this film.
Right.
And men are kind of treated like boy toys.
Right, which is
know?
I think everybody kind of gets like
Yeah,
the
gets
Kens
that
or the
vibe,
Kens, and then the Barbies
They're
are what,
secondary.
which is
Yeah,
kind of
they're
how
secondary characters.
the dolls
They
were
don't-
kind of like that, right? Like the
Yeah.
original action figure doll things were like Barbie had all these jobs and Ken was just Ken, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of, and
He
so
was
it plays
just
on
Ken.
that.
He was
Okay,
the side piece. He was the handbag, the fancy,
Right.
like, arm candy.
yeah,
And what I thought was so interesting is because I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, but with Ryan Gosling, when he got the role offered to him, he was deciding, and then he walked out and saw a Ken doll laying in the grass in the backyard, like.
oh wow,
Yeah, did you know that?
I didn't know that.
No, okay, yeah, because I guess like his daughter or something had been playing with Ken and just forgot about the toy in the backyard.
Wow,
And
that's a sign.
He was like, just like, the toy's like just like lying face down in the dirt next to like a lemon or something. And they're like, so he takes a picture and then sends it to Greta and basically says, I'm going to be your Ken. Like, this is a sign from the universe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's how he got into it. I thought,
So let me ask you: was it
yes.
funny? Like just purely from
Yeah, it was great. It was funny because I think that, yes, it's consumerism. They're talking about Barbie and this and that, but I think that it did try in some ways to go and address a lot of those things because, she's referred to as the stereotypical Barbie in the movie.
Right. Right.
That's the Barbie ideal, and that's a lot of things that, like body image. That's like something that's addressed, and how to like empower yourself and I think that it was wonderful but it was done in a way that's just hilarious, and a lot of the critiques that are coming in about it are kind of just like, oh yeah, like it's a pink acid trip and yada 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 and like Greta's lost the plot. I'm like, these are just haters. These people are full on haters. I will say that when I was watching it, I was thinking about like, what if the power dynamics were reversed? What if this was Ken playing Barbie and vice versa? And like what it, like that kind of scenario. And so I could understand why it could make some people uncomfortable, but like not enough to go and like buy Barbies and burn them and throw them in a trash can like Ben Shapiro.
Well,
I think
I was gonna say,
like that,
those
right?
folks will do that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's just crazy. Like really, you're that triggered by a movie like that? Like really, come on now. So I was gonna say though, just wanted to point this out because I think that this is like a TV show that should get more views, is that if, right-wingers really want to get mad about something that's like feminine empowerment, is to watch this TV show called The Power. And that would definitely upset way more men because it's like outright, like it's hardcore. So if you don't have anything to watch, go and start watching The Power. But then,
my curiosity with Barbie is, does any of it feel like it's trying too hard or it's too forced with the messaging? Is it like overly over the top with the political point? Or do you feel like it was a nice balance of there's clearly an underlying message here, but they made sure that the whole thing was still fun and it works pretty seamlessly? What did you feel?
So for me, I think that like I'm somebody that's, I didn't know exactly what the movie was going to be. I kind of got a feeling that like what it might be given how many, right wingers were reacting as, passionately as they were.
Right.
But I think that too, just like with what Greta did, it's like it was supposed to be like a little bit over the top. Right. And so if something's over the top, that's what you're going to get, with the acting, with the storyline, with X, Y, and Z aspects of this movie and this film, and so like, yeah, it was like very obvious. It was funny. It was hilarious. I loved it. It kind of reminded me actually when, what was it with She-Hulk? A lot of people didn't like She-Hulk. And like there's some criticisms and like, and some things that happen within those plots that are kind of like mirror each other in a way. I don't want to say anything more because spoilers and whatever.
Of course.
It's just like the same people that were criticizing She-Hulk for, the way that was filmed are probably the same people that are also criticizing how Barbie was filmed.
Gotcha.
And so that's just the way that I think that it's just like, yeah, it had like a message and people are saying it's political, but I don't think it's political in the sense. I think it's a societal issue that we've made political. Right. Because this is something that's not politics. It's something that's about society. But yeah.
I think that's fair.
That's
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'll see it for myself.
Yeah, tell
here
me what you think about it
in a couple hours.
Afterwards and everything. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
And then, okay. I actually have a question for you, and then it can lead into all of your stuff. But
sure.
Why did you end up seeing Oppenheimer twice?
Because of what I'm about to get into, which is Oppenheimer was simply one of the most magnificent things I have ever seen.
Oh, really? really.
And I am not the kind of person that we haven't done, like, I don't think we've done a single other film review on this channel yet, but I am not the person to give high praise like that. I really try to measure, and I'm always worried that there's recency bias. I saw it at the City Walk, Universal Studios AMC IMAX, and so it's like this gigantic 70 millimeter IMAX. So it's this gigantic, stunning, the visuals, and you go, okay, was I just like sort of in a trance? Was it just the wow factor of the first viewing? And then I go and watch it later, and I'm like, okay, it wasn't as great as I remember it. So I saw it twice in the same week. Second time at the Chinese Theater over in Hollywood, and even at the second viewing, I was like, once it was over, this is a goddamn amazing movie. One of the best films I've ever seen in my life, period. Point blank. Like, I just, you got to see it for yourselves if you haven't. I think on both levels, on purely from a cinema level, the acting, the cinematography, the pacing, editing, directing, all of it, every single layer of it, I think is excellent. Then you have the actual underlying message, the content of the film itself. And I just think the moral of this film, the message of it, which it does not, it's not like, it beats you over the head with it. So I do think, like, Ben Shapiro, they loved it. And I'm like, dude, if you see this movie and you're a leftist, you'll be like, Ben Shapiro does not understand movies. He just does not. But that's not a new thing. Right-wingers watch Star Wars and fail to realize that they're defending the Empire. They just think it's laser swords and
There's
aliens.
not a lot
and
of thoughts going on. Yeah.
Not a whole lot going on upstairs.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why Ben Shapiro is so frustrated with the Ken depiction.
Right.
Although he wishes he had the body of Ryan
Gosling. Yeah.
Anyway, so it really, I think, is a film that not only is it brilliant in its own right, but the timing. I think Christopher Nolan was very intentional with making this movie right now, this moment, as I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that it is very clear the tensions right now between the world powers resemble a Cold War. And the first time we're in a real Cold War like this since the original. And so going back in time and looking at the previous Cold War and World War II and what led to a human rights catastrophe, the likes of which has not been seen before or since, of dropping nuclear weapons on innocent people, just incinerating them. And I also appreciate this. And none of this is spoilers. Again, this is public history. So it's not,
right. Yeah,
my film's a bit different because Oppenheimer it's real events.
You hopefully everyone learned about it in high school. That was
you should know. Right. So nothing I'm saying is spoiler, for God's sakes. It's like saying 9/11, like talking about 9/11 is a spoiler alert. Yeah. There's gonna movie coming out anyway. I haven't seen the Michael Moore movie yet. Shush.
Right.
So I'm not spoiling anything by saying, like, it was a human rights catastrophe that was justified in various ways, and I think, especially if you're a leftist or left-leaning person, you will walk away thinking that this film did justice to the fact that this should never have happened, and that as much as it has been justified and rationalized and saying, well, it ended the war. Well, did it? Was that really what did it? Well, if we didn't do it, Nazi Germany would have developed them first, and that would have been, even worse. Well, would it have been even worse? Or what I think the film, and this is why Ben Shapiro is so dumb, I think the film does a very good job of showing people that America is more of the problem than we're willing to often admit.
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Exactly. Yeah. And so there you go, Swiftie, is a little reference for you.
By me.
Is there a lot of crossover between Oppenheimer fans and Taylor Swift? Which remains to be seen. But anyway, I think, again, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to get too specific, but if you're really paying attention to this film, you will see, in my opinion, after the bomb has been built and all this stuff, the way Christopher Nolan portrays, pay special attention to this, the way Christopher Nolan portrays just the American people, the American public, and their reaction to the bomb being dropped on Japan. Look at the way he I think, intentionally characterizes them. It is as if he's suggesting the American public and our culture and our just violent, deranged, sort of jingoist attitude towards the world is as dangerous as the bomb itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the bomb is the bomb, but the fact that it was in the hands of this country and the inherent nature of this country with regards to violence, patriotism, imperialism, these sorts of things. I just think the film portrayed it in a way, because I saw a lot of people on Twitter that are concerned, like, oh, Christopher Nolan's gonna, it's gonna be this liberal movie where he justifies the bomb being dropped, and it didn't give the Japanese perspective. Well, I think if you watch it, you'll understand why he did it the way he did it, because yes, it does focus on the American perspective, like entirely the American perspective on this.
Yeah.
But for good reason. It because it's portraying the deranged, psychotic incompetence and corruption that led to.
So it's
one of the
holding up a mirror, essentially.
Yes, I think so. And then again, aside from just the message of it, which I felt was pretty strong and clear, there's a lot of. It's going to sound weird juxtaposing it. There's a lot of fun things. And then, like, someone described, because Albert Einstein, of course, makes a couple of appearances in the film.
Yes.
Someone described the way he was portrayed in the movie as a fruity Yoda. And I just think if you see this for yourself, that is the most. Yes, that is the most perfect way. Like he is the fruity. Yoda. He's the fruity Yoda of the movie, and it's incredible. There's just some genuinely funny artistic choices Christopher Nolan made that I think makes it wildly entertaining. And again, there's really no reason a movie that's like a biopic about a quantum physics dude that should be this exciting. But it's a historical biopic that feels as exhilarating as an action movie. I really don't think it's like 3 hours. I really don't think you'll be bored if you have just even like a modicum of an attention span. Now, I can't speak to everybody, but there's some people, we're going to get into that a little bit later. But I think for the average person, if you're worried that some boring history movie, it's dazzling. There are so many visuals and the soundtrack and just the pacing of it. I think it's perfectly structured. I think if you're willing to sit for the 3 hours, even if you thought maybe this isn't your kind of movie, if you're willing to give it a chance and you make it all the way till the end, I would be really surprised if you walked away not going, wow, that was actually a pretty incredible few hours of my time, and I kind of get what's at stake right now.
Yes.
And my hope is it might cause some people to reconsider their attitudes towards other countries
things that are going on.
Yeah, we're being told to hate a lot of other countries, and we're being encouraged to participate in the Cold War sentiment that has clearly resurfaced, and the McCarthyist attitudes that never really left. They won. The McCarthyists, the Red Scare, it never stopped. Like, they won, and we've lived in a country that is so violently anti-socialist ever since, to a huge fault, to its own detriment. And I really think this film does such a brilliant job at depicting just how self-destructive the anti-socialist sentiment in this country gets. Whether or not you're a socialist, I don't think you have to be a socialist or even a leftist to appreciate what the movie is telling people, which is, you can disagree with socialists and communists all you want, but at a certain point, you're siding with fascists over them. Yeah. At a certain point, you're saying fascism is less of a threat. The film makes that very explicit in one scene that I thought was, like, towards the beginning. It's very well done. And what does that really say about you? If you're a liberal, or you think of yourself as a conservative or a liberal in this country, and if you're being honest with yourself, you see socialism as a greater threat than fascism, and you see stopping that, which at a certain point this country, in many instances, has and still is. Like, I just think, for a movie this big, from a director this big, I think leftists will find it way better, way more constructive than they expected. And I think the general public can appreciate the message of, hey, if we destroy the entire world, nobody wins.
Yeah.
nobody wins. And
It's
so
either that or
maybe
climate change. Yay.
right, exactly. And so yeah, it's about nuclear weapons on some level, but we can think. I really think you can apply it to other things outside of simply nuclear
Yeah.
weapons, like you just said. Like if we destroy the planet, what's the point in any of this? And
Yes.
so again, I don't want to give you any more than that because we're not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't
Yeah.
seen it. But when I tell you, like, I don't feel this passionate about a lot of movies. I really don't. I mean, I love movies and I like a lot of them. But in terms of how much I love this film, man, like he knocked it out of the park. Christopher Nolan, I salute you. I hope you all go see it. And I don't know what else. Meg, do you have any questions for me based on that description, or did I
No, I
did I
think
get
it's
it?
wonderful. You know what you're kind of saying, it actually reminded me of this quote, and I don't know how to pronounce the author's name, so I'm not even gonna butcher it. But maybe you can get a graphic on screen and everything that says this. But the quote is saying, "The world is not divided between East and West. You're American, I'm Iranian. We don't know each other, but we talk and we understand each other perfectly. The difference between you and our government and your government is much bigger than the difference between you and me. The difference between me and my government is much bigger than the difference between me and you. Our government is very much the same, and our governments are very much the same." And so basically it's like, every citizen, no matter what country they belong to, is going to have a lot in common with one another.
Yes.
And the only reason
specifically the working class.
Yes. The only reason war happens is because of our governments.
Right.
And it really sucks that our governments are not run by people that know how to actually have discussions and work things out, because, without people, there's no borders.
Right.
If we were just like, hanging out, I mean, I understand. I don't know. I don't even know how to put this, but it's just like, what? We're all on this planet together. This is like our spaceship. We're all stuck here together.
Well, this is a big difference.
Yeah.
This is a big difference between what I think a lot of people would agree, liberalism and leftism, which is leftism in particular is an internationalist.
Yeah.
Internationalists. Yes. Workers of the world unite.
Unite. Yeah.
So if you're sticking to domestic, if all you care about is what happens in this country, yes, every American should have health care. Yes, every American should be able to go to college. But if that's where you stop, which I think a lot of progressives do, you're missing the big picture, and you're not going to get any of those things, because if we don't have an international workers' effort towards challenging our governments for better standards of living and challenging corporations and the capitalist class, if we don't have that solidarity around the world, we're not going to actually build the movement we need. It's got to be this united effort. If you're only thinking small in terms of domestic, and that's a huge fallacy, by the way, the idea that there's domestic policy and foreign policy. You cannot separate these things. Foreign policy shapes the domestic policy shapes the foreign policy. Like, your cost of living is directly related to whatever conflicts and wars are going on, et cetera, et cetera. Even climate change, exactly. Like,
it affects all of us.
Yes, and so that's so good that you brought that up, Meg. Like, it is an internationalist perspective. If you are truly of the left, you need to look at this through an internationalist, anti-war, anti-racist. It needs to be an inclusive, anti-war workers
care about people.
movement. Yes, that's what it is. And wow, what a novel
How
concept.
Insane. Caring about people,
Yeah.
It's just like, for me, it's, be a humanist. Like, give a shit about people. Like, what
that's
is
really
wrong
what it
with
is.
you? I mean, like, I think that, like, to a degree, we're all like under the boot of like the government, and so we're all struggling, but it's just like, those struggles are actually our similarities.
Right,
and that's
it's our
what I
common ground.
think that people kind of forget, that it's like, like, there's thousands of more people that are actually experiencing, like, housing issues. There's thousands of people that are experiencing, like, or struggling with, like, the healthcare system. Like, there's thousands of people, millions of people that share the same struggles, and like, this is the thing, is that all those struggles are connected to the same thing.
Right.
Which is our governments.
Right.
And like, also just like the corporations too, that like, uphold the system. And so it's just like, if we actually have those one-on-one discussions and talk things out, we're going to realize, hey, like, you know what? We might not see eye to eye on everything, but we do have more in common than we do have differences. So that's my soapbox.
I agree. I completely agree. That's what it's all about. That's why it's solidarity media.
Yeah.
That's why it is. And that's what we do here. So in addition to the struggle, and it is a noble but difficult struggle. Take some time to go see Barbie and Oppenheimer because they're great movies, and there's room for both in your life. You can't, you got to take care of yourselves. It's easy to burn out. It's easy to get doom and gloom and cynical, and that doesn't help anybody. Doesn't accomplish anything. Take some time. Take some time to enjoy yourself. Go see Oppenheimer, and then after you're done seeing that's why I see it in the order popcorn. I did. Get the big popcorn. Once you're done seeing the terrifying depiction in Oppenheimer, go enjoy Barbie. Right. And they really, even though it's Barbenheimer, I think the other
do it in
order.
Reverse.
I think that if you're gonna do both, do it in reverse. But
you know what? I'll say this. Okay, so I want to see Oppenheimer, but the thing that kills me is that it's 3 hours long. And I really wish we could go and default back to the days where they would
intermission,
have,
right?
Yes. What happened to that?
No, that's the big difficulty.
Love that.
But I'm telling you, for 3 hours, it does not. I don't think it feels like 3 hours. I really don't. Yeah. Some people, if you really have zero interest in like any of the subject matter, I still think there's moments that'll capture your attention, but maybe it's not for you. But I do think even if you just have even some vague interest in like the world and nuclear and like and like apocalypse and like I really think it's a historical biopic, but it feels more like an action movie. I really think
I want to see it. Like I'm a nerd, and definitely you've sold me. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. I just like, for me, I'm kind of spoiled with like watching things at home because I get to pause and like I can like refill my water, get another snack, or go to the restroom.
And that's a perfect point, by the way, which segues into
what
we're going to talk about next.
And so, but for me, like I said, bring back intermission. They would definitely, more people like me would go. Like, we'd be like, okay, now I can actually
love
take
drinking
my break.
my 10-gallon drum of Diet Coke.
Like, if I'm going to get the large popcorn, I also want the large drink. And that's just like a recipe for disaster. Because what if I miss like a really important part of the movie?
Right. I totally agree. And with this movie, no second is spared. I'll tell you that. Like, you really don't want to get up.
That's my worry. That was my concern.
Well, get the smaller soda maybe if it's a real risk.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like,
don't drink anything until it's the last hour.